know, backing up what you represent online. But let's move on. This situation is extremely sticky. Now, we need a Netflix documentary, something called The Pandemic, because during the pandemic, a lot of financial influencers, a lot of people's lives changed because of COVID and people sitting at home, and everybody was an expert overnight, right?
Yeah.
So we had people talking about finance, talking about business, talking about investments, raising money, taking people money, and a lot of them are being exposed now. Now, this Philly-based entrepreneur and real estate influencer, Greg Parker, people know him online as Big Business. He's from Philly, and he was doing the flipping property stuff in Philly. A real estate investor. He actually knows what he's talking about. The issue is he's a little rough around the edges. He's in and out of prison, street dude, sold drugs. So he attracted a certain crowd.
Right.
And the minute one of those people who had a rags to riches story gets some type of clout, know some type of information, the first thing they start doing is trying to package it, and people, oh my God, can you invest my money for me? Can you invest my money for me? And that's extremely tempting because everybody got all this PPP money.
Yep.
And he even wrapped his wife up in this. So Philly-based real estate influencer Greg Parker, Big Business, and his wife, Daniel Nikki Parker, have been charged with fraud, wire fraud, taking investors' money. They got hit by the feds in federal court, and they were flipping a lot of properties in Cleveland and started taking investor money, and they've been getting called out for years.
Yeah.
But they finally got indicted on this.
You know what bothers me about stuff like this? The reason why people buy into your coaching program or letting you invest my money is because you would assume that their lavish lifestyle means they're successful.
Oh, yes.
Because they got the fancy cars and the mansion, I believe that you know what to do with my money.
Yes.
But on the flip side, it's like, you taking my money to pay for this stuff. That should also be a red flag that, like, hey, you're so flashy. I see you flashing all the luxury goods you bought more than I do, or just as much as I see you actually doing the business.
Yes.
So I would be nervous to give you my money because I'm like, look, you might put this toward your next trip or this private jet you're showing off or all these luxury bags that you come home with for your wife every day, as opposed to actually putting it into properties. But again, like you said, if you're not flexing and showing off, the people probably wouldn't buy into him in the first place.
Yes.
If he was just dirty and dusty all the time and didn't show the lavish side of it, people might think, oh, he's not really getting that much money. So I think that's a weird thing that gets people to buy in, but at the same time, it should be a red flag.
Yes, and it's a double-edged sword, like you said, because if you don't show the car, if you don't show the watch, if you don't show the lifestyle marketing, but you show you're in the office, you're grinding, you're working, a lot of people get skeptical, like, what, you're working too hard. I thought you were an investor. I thought you can make my money work for me. I thought you could give me this great return.
Yeah.
So federal prosecutors allege that the Parkers misled investors by promising profitable real estate deals, particularly involving properties in East Cleveland. The indictment claims they told investors they would help buy and rehab properties that could generate 20% or more within months through rental income. Now, that's a red flag right there. You've been in a business, 20% returns,
That's
guaranteed
phenomenal.
or more.
That's sensational. But this goes back to just a pure lack of financial education. It is funny because I was talking to a friend of mine one time who knew a guy. Now, she was a licensed realtor, but she knew a guy who did real estate investments, right? And he was trying to get her to buy into his program, and he was telling her that he would get her a 20% return.
Right.
And then she says to me, like, oh, I thought about doing it, but when he said 20%, I hesitated because I thought that was a small amount. And I said, lady, you have no idea what you're talking about. Any person in business or who's really investing money understands that a 20% return in a year's time is phenomenal, right? And so, again, if you're somebody who's been studying business, who's been studying finance, and who understands a realistic return on investment, you would know that somebody guaranteeing you 20% on a real estate deal should be fishy.
Yes.
And I don't care how big or legitimate the firm is, because I sometimes see financial firms that are credible doing stuff like that, throwing out numbers, giving people a range roughly where they
Yeah.
guarantee something's going to come. If your guarantee on any investment is above 10%, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
automatically like, I don't know. Now it depends on the time frame. If I say it's
Yeah.
going to take me 10 years to give you 15%, that's a long time.
Yeah,
But if you're
yeah.
telling me in 1 year's time or less, you're going to turn around 20% of my money,
Yeah.
I'm automatically suspicious.
And then government bonds, all these type of safe investments, they might give you
3, 4.
2 to 3%. And I think the issue is the lack of actual access to capital. Because if you got millions of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, an 8% return on $100,000 is
need, bro.
$8,000.
Yeah.
8% return on $1 million. You see what I'm saying? We talk 80,000, or 8% return on
That's a salary.
800,000. I mean, on 10 million is 800,000. So the larger the number get, the lower the percentage has to be.
Yeah.
But the issue is a lot of people in our community are not starting with a basis of in a large capital base. And because you're not starting with that large capital base, turning $100 and getting a 10% return on that, that's $10. So
Right.
you're like, no, I want to turn this $100 into
You want
$1,500.
to double it and triple it.
And
which
that's
is
how,
which is why you put in parlays.
and that's our issue is a lot of what financial literacy in business comes from the street culture. And what street culture rap about it, doubling, tripling,
Flip it real quick.
turning a bird into it. And it's like, once people get to talking like that, you should be like, okay, you should step back. And that's a red flag because we are not in the streets. We're in corporate America. We're entrepreneurs. We're small business owners. We're investors. You don't need to have this street vernacular and street talk. And he's a retired street guy. And, you know, ain't no telling what he was doing back in his past, selling drugs, all this type of other stuff. But these are the type of people that we're giving our money to as a community.
But you know what, bro? I think because so many people unfortunately relate to having a big brother or uncle who went to jail or did some time, when you see a guy who reminds you of your uncle, but he allegedly came out and turned it into millions, you think like, oh, I can do that too, or I should be able to trust him because he figured it out, but he's relatable because all the black figures around me may have went through something similar.
Yes.
But like you always talk about, the clean-cut nerdy guy who went to all the right schools, who never hurt a fly, never had any financial or any type of criminal history or background, when he comes out speaking with all this nerdy vernacular and actually knows what he's talking about, it's harder for him to get trust and buy-in when he's doing it the legitimate way.
Yeah.
But when somebody has a street background and they're a little more rough around the edges, our community is way more quick to buy in and have belief in that person.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. And one of my mentors told me, he said one of the reasons he invested with his advisor at one of these large firms that he invested with is because if his advisor steals his money or, does something unethical, he has a fiduciary responsibility backed by the company.
Yeah.
So let's say Chase Bank or Charles Schwab or one of these big companies have advisors doing something illegitimate. You can always take Chase Bank to court and get your money back. It's been athletes that have been done wrong by advisors and things like that. And because they got done wrong, they sued the company. And the company reimbursed them their funds. Now, it took them a couple of years. Now, they lost the capital in that way, but they still got their money back.
Yeah.
When you give your money to Big Business or one of these dudes, even if he goes to jail,
Turks and Caicos with it, brother.
You're never getting your money back. These investors are never going to get their money back. And I'm going to break down my process and my red flags to know if somebody is a scammer. These are some of the things I run through my radar to know if they are a scammer and to see, because I'm not giving nobody my money. Just to be fair, like I'm not giving nobody my money unless it's somebody who's backed by a multi-billion-dollar company. You do something wrong, I can sue you. But just some regular guy that's just walking around that claims to can flip my money, I'm not giving him my money. But in the black community, a lot of these scammers have these 5 characteristics that I'm going to explain. Now, I'm not trying to be elitist. I'm not trying to be that guy, but unfortunately, the Jay Morrisons of the world, the Greg Parkers, all these dudes have a lot in common. Number one, they all went to jail. They all have some type of criminal background, some type of street cred from going to prison and getting out, and they wrap that story into selling you. Number two, now this could be a positive, but unfortunately they use it in a negative way. They got the gift of gab. Yeah. If you ever heard Jay Morrison talk, if you ever heard Big Business, all these guys talk, they're believable. You like,
water to a well.
Man.
Literally.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's number two. Number three, like you said, the flashiness. If you are so good with your money, why are you blowing and spending your money? But on the flip side, that's how a rational person would think. But most people who don't understand finance, don't understand business, they look at that as credibility building. Oh, you jumping out of a Rolls Royce, you jumping out. And nowadays, we got Turo, all this other. You can go rent the car. You don't even have to own it now. Yeah. You just take a picture, drive around the neighborhood, do a video, and people just think you're legitimate. So that's number three. Number four is, I think that's number That was three. That was number three. Okay, number four, the excessive jewelry and the excessive lifestyle marketing. Right now, lifestyle marketing, that don't necessarily discredit you, but it's a big red flag. If that's all they sell you is lifestyle marketing, they don't add any value. Right. Now, if you're flipping houses, tell me how I can hire contractors. You're flipping houses, tell me how I can get better rates on my wood when I go to Home Depot. Tell me how I can find the best inspector in town. Give me some tangible things that I can take and add to my investment portfolio or investment thesis. Why do I gotta know that you eating Wagyu steak? Why does that matter, bro? Hey. It don't matter, but that is the fourth thing that these black influencers, and they prey on our community. And the fifth thing. Now, if you do this and coupled with all these five things, your odds of getting black people and the people in our community to buy into you is probably about 80 to 90%. Celebrity endorsements. Just hang around somebody that they perceive, rapper, athlete, and we already know they don't know nothing, but they got credibility. Yeah. Hang around an athlete, hang around a rapper, take a picture, photo op, and then you're going to post it up as if that athlete or that rapper is endorsing what you have going on. And unfortunately, that is the formula that all of these scammers in our community are using. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's being successful.
I mean, and that endorsement thing works, right? Because big businesses do it all the time. They go hire a celebrity or a rapper to be on their commercial and endorse their product. I want to make something really clear about this, though, to address what we just spoke about. There's a huge distinction between paying a consulting fee or hiring an expert to teach you a craft versus giving somebody your money to invest on your behalf. Correct. Those are two wildly different things. Paying for a service from somebody who has credibility and can actually show you how to make money with your own money while it stays in your account is different from you taking money out of your account, giving it to that person, expecting that they're going to give it back to you in a larger amount.
That's a good point.
Very clear distinctions.
Just like I was talking about, help me find the inspector, help me lower my costs. That's something. I'll pay you a consulting fee, and if you deliver on that, that's money well spent, no matter who they are. Giving somebody your 401, he was taking money out of people's 401ks.
My goodness.
It's just ridiculous, man. I'm gonna do a further breakdown on this, probably on the membership. So check that out, guys. Link in the description. But let's move on to some better news. Somebody who is doing it right, and we both from Detroit.